Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing? I hope you are doing great. So today I bring this juicy gist for you guys. Grab your popcorn and grab your juice.
This is exactly why I don't like ESPN and exactly why I'm losing my interest in professional sports. And it's got to do with race. See, Morgan Freeman said if you want to get rid of racism, stop talking about it. Martin Luther King envisioned a world that kids and people would commingle and interact together and the color of their skin wouldn't matter. So here we have Philadelphia Eagles and we have Kansas City Chiefs going to play in the Super Bowl. I was excited about that. I went to Texas Tech. Love Pat Mahomes. I absolutely love Jalen Hurts. Great athlete, but a character guy like you normally don't see coming out of college. With what he went through at Alabama. And he took it like a man and didn't act like a child. Absolutely love these two athletes. And then ESPN comes out and says Doug Williams excited about two black quarterbacks playing in the Super Bowl. There you go. You had to make it about race. You had to bring race into the discussion when there was no point for it. We have great athletes on the field, great combatants on the field. It's going to be a great game, but you had to do that. They're not the first black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. They won't be the first black quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl. And don't tell me this is about young kids, because you're acting as if young kids are stupid and they can't look at the two athletes and see who they are. But it was eating you up inside that you had to absolutely say something when you didn't need to. We couldn't just say these are great athletes, because that's the world we're supposed to live in. That's the world I live in. I don't care what color of skin they have. It's irrelevant to me. But you had to bring it up when there was no need to. You had to make it about race. I found it interesting because there's a study that came out in the early 1990s from the New York Times and CNN, a combined poll. And they went and talked to black people and asked, racism, discrimination, what part of it does it play in your life? The overwhelming majority said it didn't. But yet if you were to take that poll today, you would have the opposite of what you saw back in the 90s, coming out of the very racist times of the 70s and 80s. So you're claiming we're more racist today than we were back then? No. The only reason why we're this way today is because of this, because of the news media injecting it where it doesn't need to be injected. Constantly making everything about race or making everything about politics for no purpose, instead of just saying we have athletes on the field. You're taking racism and you're watering it down by talking about race and making everything about race, that when we do have real racism, a lot of times it goes unnoticed because of this never-ending drone beat of race. There was no point to bring it up. People have eyes. People are not stupid. People can see. But the whole point is to not notice.
And this is exactly why middle-aged white men get so mad about anything that has to deal with race. Because you don't want to deal with it, and you don't want to admit that it's prevalent in every part of society, from the way that Black people are discriminated against for loans, for their houses being underappraised, from the school districts that their kids have to go to, from the school to prison pipeline. You don't want to admit that, and now you're mad that race has permeated sports because that was your escape from everything. So now you have to hear about how two black men are going to be the first quarterbacks to meet at the Super Bowl, and that just got your little panties all in a bunch, huh? There's nothing worse than bitch-made men. And you, sir, are the biggest one. For you to sit up here and talk about how Morgan Freeman said if you want to stop racism, then you need to stop talking about race. Well, we will stop talking about race when you guys, and I mean people who look like you, start making sure that we all have an equal footing economically, financially, educational, in every aspect of life. You guys have a head start in life, and instead of running with that head start, you guys want to go ahead and turn around and make sure the rest of us trip so we can't catch up to you. Again, your issue is not with the fact that it was brought up that 2 black men will be killing it this year in the Super Bowl. Oh, and by the way, go Eagles, Philly, yes. Your problem is now that's all you feel like you're going to hear is about these 2 black quarterbacks. I don't see you getting upset about the whole, Cleese brothers being the first brothers meeting at the Super Bowl. It only rubbed your panties the wrong way when it was brought up about the 2 quarterbacks. And yes, they may not be the first quarterbacks to have chance to win at the Super Bowl, but it'll be the first time that 2 will meet in the Super Bowl. And that is historic. And yes, little black boys and little black girls and other brown children, hell, the whole BIPOC community will be able to look at that and be like, damn, look at that. But it's history. And that is why you are mad, because you can't say the same thing about white people.
7% of the NFL is made up of black players. Doug Williams, the commentator that you mentioned, is also a former black NFL player who played for the Dallas Cowboys. This is literally the first time in NFL history where 2 black quarterbacks have faced off against each other in the Super Bowl. It's never happened before. Ever. Also, I don't know if you know this. You probably don't, judging by your ridiculous video. It's Black History Month. You could have just said, it makes me uncomfortable to see black people celebrating the success of other black people. But no, you chose to say a whole lot of nothing. For what? Good job, I guess.
Yes, you're not going to watch the Super Bowl because they made it about race, aren't you? You flippin' fragile snowflake. This is the first time in Super Bowl history that we have both teams when their starting quarterback is black. And you have an issue with it because they brought race. And the fact that you're a grown-ass man sitting in your car crying about that shit is literally funny to me. It really shows how truly sensitive you are. I literally despise people like you, man. Like, I truly do. I really despise people like you. I hope you don't watch the Super Bowl. I hope you don't watch the Super Bowl. That's all I'm going to say.
Representation. This is about positive black representation. It's not important to you because it's not about you. We as black people have spent the last 2-3 years seeing on the media people argue if our life is worthy. You got people getting killed by cops and you have people trying to justify them dying. We've seen all of that. And then you look at the movies. Most black movies, the main villain is racism. You got slave movies. You got movies about maybe a black person trying to overcome and get a job, but he can't because he's black. Like, this is what we're talking about. That is why movies like Black Panther are so important to the black community, because it shows the black community in a positive light, what the media doesn't do. Secondly, everything is about race because everything of this country has been about race. Of the developed countries, our country, the United States, is like the youngest out of all of them. Yet we are the most powerful. How do we get so powerful? We had hundreds of years of goods like cotton, which is in clothes, all sorts of clothes, tobacco. Everybody fucking smokes, chews, or does whatever with tobacco. They're making tons of all these products for free off the backs of black people. But let's fast forward to present. We don't see that many public pools or parks anymore. But back in like the 50s, the 40s, 50s, all that time, there was plenty. Until segregation got ended. The white people did not want black people swimming with them. So what'd they do? They filled up the pools, turned them into parking lots, shit like that. We have things like Black History Month, Asian American Month, Latino Heritage Month, things like that, because these groups are not represented. And we know this because every time somebody brings up something of Martin Luther King, it's, oh, I have a dream that all my boys and girls are going to go to school with white people and that you have to protest peacefully. That's all they know about Martin Luther King. There's been so much more said, so much more in that speech itself that they just don't know because we weren't taught it. How do you expect us to move on from racism when we sit here and deny that it ever happened? You see, people like you could be tired of racism and turn off your TV, while people like me can't turn off our skin. This outrage that you're feeling is from a lack of understanding of the situation, and you will never understand the situation if we don't.
I'm so sick and tired of you. I don't see race as pasties every time y'all open y'all mouth. You had the nerve to quote Martin Luther King talking about some Martin Luther King envisioned a world in which people weren't judged on the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Was that a reality? Was that ever a reality? Bro, you really swore that this was this profound ass message, and it's not, like, at all, not even in the slightest. I really don't understand how people can exist with this mindset in this world that we live in. Like, just open your eyes, like, turn on the TV, talk to an actual black person. Like,
oh, for the love of God, some of you suck at Black History Month. Why is it so hard for you to find more than 2 African Americans you can quote? There are literally hundreds of them. Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, Zora Hurst, and Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois. Or better yet, just Google the Harlem Renaissance. And yes, we know you're angry that ESPN bothered to mention that for the first time in 56 years, this would be the first Super Bowl with 2 African American quarterbacks. But rest assured, when the day comes and there are 2 Samoan quarterbacks facing each other in a Super Bowl, I'm sure someone will mention it and find it of import. Well, anyway, this has been Doc for Diesel Punk Industries saying MLK said other things. Thanks for watching, and as always, Crunchy White, pimp forever.
Well, I knew one would make it to TikTok, so here goes. You started off with Martin, and then you mentioned Morgan Freeman, then you mentioned not seeing color. Then you mentioned one very important person, Doug Williams, who was the first black quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl. And do you ever thought about what Doug Williams had to go through in the 80s? Warren Moon in the 70s and 80s? Randall Cunningham, okay? You know just as well as I do, in those days, 70s, 80s, if you could be a quarterback all day, all night, because those people were considered good signal callers, students of the game, able to think quick, okay? And then if you were this color, you were a great physical specimen. You weren't a human, you were a specimen. So chill out, okay? It's about race, and it's sad that it's 2023 and it's the first time that they've had 2 black quarterbacks to start. Oh, and were you upset that year when Tony Dungy and Lovie Smith were the first 2 black coaches to be in the Super Bowl? Were you upset the year when Tony Dungy was the first black coach to go to the Super Bowl? Head coach? Okay, think about it. Because talked about it back then, talk about it today. One day we might not have to talk about it, but it's still an issue, and you know it. Especially if you went to Texas Tech and you look older than me, and I'm in my 40s. All right, take care.
A little bit of context before I start. So this gentleman and a lot of others out there are upset that all the sports media outlets have mentioned over and over again that this Super Bowl, the 2 quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, is the first Super Bowl matchup between 2 African-American quarterbacks. So now he and a lot of others are pretty much like, oh no, why did he have to bring up race around Super Bowl? Oh, why, I'm done with ESPN. I'm done with the Super Bowl and professional sports. As today's kids would say, that's fucking cap right there. We and millions of other Americans today are going to watch that damn Super Bowl. We're going to get drunk off our asses, eat unhealthy food, and then watch all of our parlays lose. And let me ask this question. What is the problem with celebrating this historical feat today? NFL has been around for over 100 years. We're on Super Bowl 57, and it's finally fucking happened. Hurts and Mahomes are making history in fucking Black History Month. And for those of you who are mad and upset saying that you're done with the NFL, you're done with professional sports because of this bullshit. You are the same motherfuckers that back in 2016 said you were done with the NFL after Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem. Be honest with yourselves. You were mad for 5 minutes and then you immediately watched the following week. I'll end this video on this last note. For those of you who are upset with the topic of race being brought up during this Super Bowl, listen, guess what? Race is a constant. It's everywhere in life. You're tired of race and other racial issues being brought up so frequently. Imagine how tired African Americans, Latinos, and other minority groups in this country are tired of dealing with it.
Like, you really seem like you hating, cause like, my boy, it's the first time in history in the NFL that 2 black quarterbacks were able to play in the Super Bowl at the same time. Why does that piss you off so much? Like, bruh, what? Like, y'all just find shit to get pissed off for like no reason. It be M&Ms and goddamn whatever else, root beer mascots. Like, y'all need to do better.
Great TikTok. I suggest you go back and watch the entire thing. He is spot on. Can we please stop talking about skin color?
What up, though? It's just truly. You know, the only people who make a big deal out of this and make it about race are people like you. People who have absolutely zero understanding of what it's like to not be represented. Why? Because you're the default. Everything in this country has been catered to people like you and I, people that look like us. The reason race is brought up is because of a historical fact. It is the first time that 2 black quarterbacks facing each other in a Super Bowl. Also, demanding that race should not be a factor is a stance that comes from white privilege, which you hold. That's simply because your race is not a factor to you and it does not affect your life in any shape, form, or fashion. Outside of fragility, obviously. But then we all know it's not really you wanting people to be treated equally. Because if it was, then you would have the same energy towards people that look like you and me who perpetuate racism towards black folks. We see this on this app daily. Where are your videos calling those people out? See, you don't make any of those videos because it isn't about the facts. It's about your feelings. And how you feel about something, and how it makes you feel. Y'all prove this to us daily with your utter and complete inaction with addressing or even acknowledging the racism that is perpetuated in this country. You show us with your continued support towards people who use racist practices in attempts to undermine black people and their culture. Nah, bud, this ain't about equality for you. You want people to be quiet so your feelings don't get triggered. Toodles, you have the day you deserve.
And don't forget to leave your comment down below what you think. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notification. Anytime I upload a video, you will be notified. So my popcorn was late. I hope you get yours. Thank you and stay blessed. Bye.